Hey folks, welcome back here to my channel Whiskey Wismar. My name is Christopher and today here on my table I have an Irish whiskey, an Irish single malt from Teeling Distillery here on my table. Wait, actually this is not from Teeling Distillery, it's just labeled as such. This actually comes from Cooley Distillery. So what's the deal here? First of all, this is to give you the hard fact, this is a 2008 distilled cherry cask matured, probably American oak matured Irish whiskey. It was available in the distillery in Dublin as a handfill bottling, that you can bottle your own, label and write all the things on there like ABV and when you bottled it and all that. Quite a nice experience. I recommend that at every place you go to, every distillery, it's always something special. Price wise, €100, and as I said, 2008 distilled. I bottled this on the 8th of October 2019. As you can see, there's also a signature on the neck here. The owners of Teeling Distillery are Jack and Stephen Teeling. They opened Teeling Distillery in Dublin they started the production in 2004, 2005, around that mark, but as 2014, 2015, sorry. And as I said, this whiskey was distilled in 2008. So what's the deal? Well, this fine gentleman here, John Teeling, comes into play there. He is the owner and founder of Cooley Distillery. He founded this place, or he founded the distillery in 1987. That's right. So all the juice that you can right now access from Teeling Distillery that is older than 6-7 years comes from Cooley Distillery. Over there in Cooley, at Cooley Distillery, which is not located in Dublin, further out, there they use Scottish style pot stills to distill their single malts, and this is what I have here in this bottle now. So I'm quite curious how it fares in comparison to an actually triple distilled Teeling whiskey from the site there in Dublin. Distilling in Dublin, also quite an interesting, some interesting facts there to name. For instance, Teeling Distillery is the first one in over 40 years to actually produce whiskey on a large scale there in Dublin. There was a Teeling distillery before, or at least a distillery owned by the Teeling, by their ancestors. The name was Walter Teeling, if I remember correct, not far from the place there where Teeling Distillery is right now. And this was located in Marrowbane Lane, and was founded a long time ago, 1782, but has long since closed, of course. So distilling in Ireland, distilling in Dublin, there was a long story, a long history of decline in the 20th century, partly to blame for prohibition and all the prohibition in the USA and all the shenanigans, the business associations between the USA and the mob and Scotland and and of course general economic decline after World War II. So lots and lots of distilleries had to close, had to convert to museums nowadays, and the bulk of Irish whiskey was for a long time produced in small number of distilleries somewhere else. But with the resurgence of distilling all around the world and resurgence of whiskey, whiskey connoisseurship, you also have a number of distilleries now reopening in Dublin and in Ireland. Teeling among them, of course, in 2014, 2015, when they started producing stuff and new stock at this site. Over there they have an output of roughly 500,000 liters per year, so really quite a big operation, and of course produce in the standard Irish single pot still style with malted and unmalted barley. Okay, so coming back here now to this juice from Cooley Distillery. So this is actually, it's misleading to call it a Teeling. It is labeled as such, and I bottled it at Teeling Distillery, of course, but the juice itself was produced in a different distillery. This is, as I said, sherry cask matured, color-wise vibrant gold, and ABV 59.8%, so quite strong. Okay, I will nose it, taste it, and give it a mark. Alright, let's see. Very pleasant, very balanced. It is a mix between sweet and tannic. There's mint, lots of vibrant yellow fruit from ripe to dried, raisins, orange peel, figs, yes. A little bit of coconut, so this is probably American oak, which would put coconut as a quite possible descriptor here for the nose, as American white oak has a tendency to exhibit some coconut flavors here and there. Yeah, very pleasant. Now undiluted on the sweeter side. The alcohol, almost 60%, are noticeable quite strongly, really. Stings in your nose. But that's to be expected from a rather young malt like this. Alright, on the palate. That's an assault. Oh yeah. Always takes a while. 1-2 seconds, and then particularly on your tongue, it's really assaults you with spiciness, which is coming from the alcohol. Yeah, there are no all too spicy herbaceous aromas to be found here in this. Now it recedes, but there's once again this interplay between sweet and tannic, so rather balanced between the cask and the distillate. Fruitiness from the nose translates to the palate, but it's not as noticeable. There's caramel, more mint, some very faint licorice. The rum aromas that you could associate with the coconut from the nose is there. I imagine that it's there. It's always something I struggle with sometimes to then have different associations from nose to palate, as of course some of the aromas your nose cannot be the same really as the palate. Yeah, but it's very subjective, as you all know. Just my own impressions, of course. So rum. Coconut rum, there's something like coconut rum. You should try it out once. It's quite tasty, particularly in cocktails, that you can find here on the palate. Overall, very pleasant, really balanced. Yeah, some oranges. And now, with a drop of water. Let's see how it fares there. Is this really an Irish whiskey? Would you guess it to be if you had this blind? I struggle with this. I didn't have too many Irish single malts. Of course, here and there, a few of the blends that are world famous Tullamore Dew, Jameson, but hard to find similarities between those containing grain whiskey and this being single malt. If you think about it, then you can guess some of this overt fruitiness from the unmalted barley that I could imagine being similar to some of the Tullamore Dew I've had, but could just be in my imagination. The nose is less sweet with a drop of water. It's more oak here. Palate much more manageable, less spicy, less salt from the alcohol, but also less sweet. More oak. The mint is more pronounced. Also, the caramel that was there before is now more on the burnt side, so lots and lots more tannic, darker aromas. Maybe even a little bit of beef bouillon, or no, not beef, chicken, poultry bouillon and stock broth. The finish rather long, medium long. Yeah, burnt caramel, burnt sugar. Once again, coconut, roasted coconut. And those yellow fruits, they fit well with this profile of caramel, coconut, the color, the associations from the nose. So golden raisins, figs, and oddly enough, it was not as pronounced here this time. I have it. Some notes of penicillin. If you have smelled actual penicillin before antibiotics, then you know what I'm talking about. It's a very distinct taste and smell, very faintly present here in the aftertaste, and but for me it adds to complexity. It's not something I would say is all outright negative. Okay, good example of Irish whiskey distilling, I should say. It's quite tasty. I'm quite glad I got this bottle from the distillery that day. And if you are in Dublin, then you should try to get your hands on a handful as well. They probably have a different one now than this one, but if those older handfills from the 90s are too expensive, then at least try a dram or share it with someone, split the costs. It's worth it. It was a great whiskey, this rum cask there. So rating wise, what would I give this? I will mark this 87 out of 100, tendency for 88, but 87 is a well-deserved mark. It's a good whiskey, it's pleasant, it's tasty, it has lots of potential with the almost 60% alcohol, so you get much more than just 0.7 liters, as you will probably dilute it down. So overall, really nice experience. Check it out. Check out Teeling Distillery if you are in Dublin, of course. And if you've had single malts from Ireland before, let me know. What was your favorite? What can you recommend? Leave a like, a comment, and hope you stay safe and healthy in these trying, interesting times. In any case, have a great week, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.